is Lauren Prestia, and I'm going to be talking about New Math. New Math is an adjustment to the old math curriculum to help everyone learn math the way that is best suited for them. Also, they could use these concepts when they are older in their future and more advanced math classes. One important aspect of New Math in elementary school is critical thinking. In old math, if you could memorize 10 plus 10 and 2 times 2, you were all set, but in New Math, this has changed. In the new math curriculum, teachers will teach students to think more critically. This will help them to not just memorize information. For example, why does 2 plus 2 equal 4, but not equal 5? Even though memorizing the times tables and that 1 plus 1 equals 2 is easier, it is not a sufficient way to learn math. This will help them have an advanced way of thinking about math from a young age. If they learn this now, it'll help them when they take upper level math courses as they get older. With a new math curriculum comes a new way of teaching math. One way is to use physical objects. For example, give your students some beans and then use the beans to do some addition and subtraction problems. Another way is to use counting cards. For example, a teacher used counting cards and diagrams to show how the numbers 10, 100, 1000, etc. were all related. So, in these two figures are examples of counting cards that a teacher has used in an elementary school to teach the students how the numbers 10, 100, and 1000 are all related. This is an example of how counting cards are used. As you can see in figure 1, the 10 dots represent 10 units, which represent the 1/10 card. Then in figure 2, you can see the same thing is used for 10s and 100s, and then it just keeps going on and on and on. The physical objects in counting cards help students visualize these concepts. This is helpful for students who are unable to do so in their heads. This is also a great way to teach students in elementary school because some of them can't read yet. If you give a student a paper explaining the steps and they are not able to read, then they will not be able to do the math, which could be frustrating because otherwise they might be able to do the math. Also, if a student is unable to read the problem or the question, it could also be quite frustrating. A way to get students in elementary school interested about what they are learning is to think creatively and to let them have choices in what they want to do. An old elementary school teacher, Colburn, would tell students to think of the words how many whenever they looked around. For example, say they were looking at the ceiling, he would tell his students to think how many towels are on the ceiling or how many towels are on the kitchen floor, etc. This gets students to constantly be thinking about math and improving their math skills in their everyday life. Colburn's goal was to teach mathematics concepts while at the same time teaching students to think more divergently. I like this quote because I think it really sums up what they're trying to achieve in elementary school in New Math, because they are trying to get students to think more creatively. An important part of New Math is to not just focus on students that look like they're exceeding in math, but to focus on students in math courses, especially in high school. Many schools in different states are handling the new math curriculum differently. For example, in New York City schools, they are putting everyone into courses that would prepare them for college, not just students doing well in math. Normally, students who do not do well in math are at a disadvantage in college because they do not take courses to prepare them for college in high school. Another example is high schools in the state of Louisiana. To make the focus on all students in the state of Louisiana got rid of all lower level math classes. These lower level math classes are replaced with transition courses. This is so everyone can go out and challenge themselves and make the classes they take more meaningful. In the lower level math classes, the teachers probably didn't have high expectations for the students, which could cause them to not do well because it's hard when your own teacher doesn't believe in you. Another example is in the state of California. So in California, they also made a new course for students while transitioning into new math. This course is called Math A. This is for students not yet ready to prepare for college but ready to learn more than the K through 8 curriculum. Math A helps the students who are not ready to be challenged and is not pushing anyone beyond what they are capable of doing. New math is also about making the high school students learn more about real world situations and incorporate other subjects into math. For example, in Buffalo, they introduced something called the UCSMP sequence as an alternative to taking the Regents level math courses. This is a 7th through 12th grade math curriculum which started because the students who took the Regents were not doing well. This curriculum teaches them more about word problems and math in the real world. Another important part of new math is being able to not just memorize the facts, but also to incorporate other skills into math. These skills can include reading, science, history, real world situations, etc. The UCSMP incorporates these other skills. For example, students engage in activities such as reading a thermometer, calculating temperatures, and measuring heights of mountains and depths of ocean. Having these skills will make the students much better at math as well as a more rounded person in school. Teachers used to spend a lot of time trying to get their students to memorize formulas and information, but these students were never really taking concepts without thinking why. Then nobody would go on to discover new math, because if people are just memorizing information when they really are not taking concepts to go out and study them further to possibly find out new information about these concepts. This is how new math discoveries are found. An example of this is finding new congruent numbers. Finding all possible congruent numbers is a problem that mathematicians have tackled for centuries. Old problems like this may seem obscure, but they generate a lot of interesting and useful research as people develop new ways to attack them, said Brian Connery. That's why mathematicians from around the globe recently worked together, relying heavily on computer code and hard drive space to find congruent numbers up to 1 trillion. This shows that learning these concepts are expanding our knowledge, because the more we look into a piece of math information, the more questions we're going to have about the math topic, and then the more research we go on to look, and the more discoveries we find. Having people that have been thinking about the why and not just memorizing information is the reason why we know how many congruent numbers there are in the math world today. The first few congruent numbers are 5, 6, 7, 13, 14, 15, 20, and 21. Many congruent numbers were known prior to the new calculation, but the recent calculation found 3,148,379,694 congruent numbers, Connery said. If people were to just memorize the first 10 congruent numbers, then we would never know how many congruent numbers there are. Nothing was incorrect with the way the textbook used to be, but students need to realize memorization isn't the most effective way to learn math. Memorizing information just does not work anymore, and this is why the school system needed to adapt a new way. Memorization will always be a good base for learning math, but it should never be the whole way students learn math. And here's my bibliography. Thanks for watching.